what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how to use Apple Search Ads and combine them with the organic effort to get the most out of the spend that you're doing. One of the things that is pretty clear and has been pretty clear before is that when you have different types of like PPC campaigns, or when you do like had a website back in the day, the SEO side, etc. These are all very separate things that require dedicated experience, right? And dedicated expertise in. So what basically I've been doing on my side that I've seen to be working quite very well is actually, okay, there are things that are affecting these other parts of the business as well, right? These other experts who handle the day-to-days on the metadata optimization side and choosing the screenshots and everything, what I'm doing on my end is either negatively or positively affecting them. So when I was able to notice that, I was saying like, okay, so what if we work together to get the most out of both sides as much as possible? Couple of things, that we're going to be talking about is how to utilize, the current components in paid user acquisition, specifically Apple Search Ads in this case, to increase, certain key metrics like conversion rates and tap-through rates, and of course, understand the total amount of installs that you get per keyword and the total amount of taps that you get per keyword. All of which do in turn affect the organic ranking of the keywords that you have in the App Store, because the algorithm works in that particular sense. So yeah, basically we're going to be covering that particular side. I'll try to be, by showing you the examples and talking about the specific topics, etc., I'll try to have a dedicated portion of this particular session to address your questions specifically. And what I would love to hear is, have you noticed this effect, either negatively or positively once again? And what are your main challenges would be the thing. So, because everyone faces different challenges, but usually, talking from a perspective that I worked with dozens of categories, hundreds of apps, probably managed personally myself quite a few $100 million of spend over the years that I've been working here and in this field. So I've been able to see, despite the category, despite the app type, despite the business type, a lot of the problems that people face are quite very common, and there's, quite very shared. So, having that kind of session at the end of the Q&A side would be great to go over those details. Okay, so let me talk very shortly about MobileAction. Basically, we were founded as an ASO agency back in 2013. We developed our data intelligence suites in 2015 and added market and ad intelligence side in 2018, eventually coming to a point in 2020 that we created searchads.com, which is an Apple Search Ads management tool. And then in the first half of 2020, we became an official partner of Apple. So let me go into, one of the sides of the, the coin, so to speak, of the topics that we're going to be talking about today is Apple Search Ads specifically, right? So why would anyone do Apple Search Ads when you have all of these other options and selections available in the market today for Apple Search Ads, or you run creative ads, you use an ad network, you do TikTok ads? Why would you decide to do? Oh, hey, Mark, nice to see you. Great. There was a movie like that, I think. Oh, hey, Mark. Yeah, right? Room? It was a Room or something? I can't remember. It was a really, really bad movie, by the way. But yeah, anyways. So the Apple Search Ads side, why is it important? And Mark would actually help us, understand that, maybe following at the Q&A side too, is that 65% of all of the downloads that come to iOS today, this is what Apple is saying, is coming from search specifically, right? So users going to the App Store, they do a specific search followed by an install. Why would this be the case? Quite very understandably, if somebody's searching for something actively, well, they're demanding it. They're trying to find that particular result. They're there to purchase something. Well, that being either installing your free app or actually doing a purchase eventually, right? So that being the case, 65% of the downloads are coming from search specifically, which is a great statistic, and it means that it's very well to capture the certain demand that we have. So, but the things that we do know is, because it's based around the keywords, and that's what the ASO side of things is being, dealt with, not only on the, the creative side and the screenshots and the videos, but like the metadata side specifically, it handles the side of the keywords as well. And the algorithm on the Apple side doesn't say, okay, you got this install from Apple Search Ads, so I'm going to treat this quite very differently in terms of the statistics. It doesn't do that. It doesn't really care if you're coming from a perspective that you do a paid install or a organic install. So if you tap on it from a paid source, or if you tap on the listing from a organic source, the algorithm is going to treat it as a tap, as a install. It's not going to differentiate between the two, which is why it's affecting this ASO side too much. So yeah, basically that's a little bit brief about Apple searches. So the App Store optimization side, as I did mention, it's metadata. You have 160 characters on the iOS side to optimize for keyword-based, right? So it's 30 for the title, it's 30 for the subtitle, and 100 for the App Store Connect keywords. Quite very basic stuff that all of you would know at this point as well. So the description side, as you might know, indexing-wise, it doesn't trigger anything on the algorithm side for the Apple, despite it being the opposite for Google. So since it's based around the keywords, the pattern starts to emerge. Okay, these two things are targeting the exact same thing at the same time, and the algorithms actually are quite very similar to one another. So then at that point, you would start to expect that, okay, this definitely is going to be something that is going to be affecting each other, and that's what I see. And I'm going to be sharing some of the examples that I was able to see, and how you could utilize it a little bit moving forward too. So how does the algorithm work? How does it determine, okay, this guy is going to be number one in this particular keyword. Everyone would love to be in the rank, organic rank number one for one of those like super high search volume keywords, right? Like imagine, it was beginning of the crypto boom that happened and you're number one for Bitcoin, your app. That would be great to see when you wake up, right? But how? Why? Why does it determine that? So basically, just to understand, from the Apple side, it's trying to find a solution, not only because, you gather the points, so to speak, in terms of installs and taps, but it's trying to improve the user experience, right? If somebody's making the search in a particular thing, they're demanding something. And the algorithm is trying to determine for this particular demand, every single person who's coming in through this keyword, are they relevant enough to see this particular app? And are they going to be able to find what? Because if they do, they're going to spend money. If they don't, they're not. And if they're not going to spend money, then Apple's going to be very, very sad. So for that matter, it basically means they need to find a system in place that is going to be working for the user as well to deliver their particular need, right? So let me move over. And just so you have it on the screen as well, I'm going to be talking about the more general things that most of you would have an idea about already. We do know when it comes to ASO rankings and for the ASO performance that definitely 100% that these keyword rankings are being affected by the number of installs that you get from a particular keyword. It gets affected by the number of taps that you get, the conversion rate, etc. Basically what you see on the App Store Connect page when you open up for the overview side, whatever statistics and information that go ahead, please. But it's going to be available too. So, feel free to take the photos, but, the sessions are going to be, the slides are going to be available too. But yeah, basically all of those that you're able to see on the App Store Connect side is going to be affecting your Apple search ads, your ASO efforts on the Apple side quite very greatly to varying degrees. But apart from that, there's three things that I do want to mention here that are a little bit different and that you can improve without necessarily spending, dozens and dozens of budget. It just requires a little bit more effort to make it work a little bit more, is the tap-through rate specifically, the conversion rate, and the reviews and ratings. The third one you might have already heard before, but maybe not to a degree of saying like, yeah, it is getting affected, but I don't know how well it's affecting it, right? So let me just go through the tap-through rate side. So the tap-through rate for this particular case would be that a user sees the impression either organically or on a paid side, and they decide to say, like, yes, this icon looks pretty, the title delivers my particular need, so I just click into it and I want to see the product page. This is one of the important things that it's, taken into consideration when it determines, okay, should I increase my organic ranking or not on the algorithm side? Because it shows that, okay, people who are searching for this particular keyword are actually interested in seeing what you have to offer, right? It's the first kind of trigger mechanic there for the algorithm to determine are you relevant for this keyword or not. The second one, the conversion rate, is quite very simple. The people go into the product page and they say, like, yes, this is exactly what I need, and they go ahead and download the app. So that is a second trigger mechanic. So before we always, basically talking like, okay, if I'm able to get, like 250, 300 installs from this keyword, I'll probably reach number one. And you might have seen, those cases in, the yesteryears. Most of you might have got that emails. Do you want to be like ranked number one? I'm going to have 150,000 bot accounts, click on your particular app and download it, and then you're going to be number one, then get banned the next day, which is not the best. But So yeah, basically, those kind of metrics. But the two things that I'm especially able to notice in the past 12 months, I was able to notice this, is that the tap-through rate and the conversion rate is getting significantly more aligned. Why? Because I'm seeing too many parallel lines between the organic rank changes with the changes in, the tap-through rate and conversion rate on the graph as well, which you're going to see too. So for that particular case, we do know that these statistics vary very greatly, especially in the top 10 rankings. So what do I mean by that? Very understandable. Let's assume that you are calling for, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a perfect example without, because there's so many alternatives of everything right now. But let's assume that this was done in 2013. Let's assume Uber was the only thing. So you're looking for Uber, right? So you're definitely not trying to look for a taxi. You want to download an app and you want to get like that premium service for that matter. So if you search for the keyword Uber, well, yeah, you're going to download Uber. You're not really go and, download that other app that actually copied the UI that looks like Uber, but actually is like a car parking game. But so you're not going to be downloading that. But the algorithm needs to know that that's not the case, right? And the way that it is able to determine that is through these particular rating numbers that it gets. And when it comes to the top 10 side, the similarity between the apps start to become a little bit more prominent. You find, especially for those important terms, like you would know from yourself as well, that if you have those kind of keywords, the top 10 ranking, apps in that particular sense, you usually come across, your main competitors in those particular settings as well, right? So it starts to become, okay, this is where I start to race, right? It's not about when you go from 200 to 100 organic ranking, is when it's, you're racing for the top 10 that matters. So what do we do to make this part and this portion a little bit easier? Basically, for the ASO side of things, I need to test all of these screenshots. I need to test these creatives. I need to test the icons. I need to test these different keywords. And I need to do them in each and every single one of the builds, which is so time consuming. So that's why Apple Search Ads, since it has the same thing, is a good way to make this work and try to get the most out of it as well, because you're able to improve your tap-through rates and conversion rates through that particular side, which I'm going to be getting into details too. So just as an example that I wanted to give. So the keyword that we're looking at is 90-day worth of data for a keyword hunting for, of course, a hunting related app. And we can actually see through the graph, the green line that you're able to see is their organic ranking and the red line is a tap through rate, right? So the system at this point, it starts from the top 10, if you might have noticed, and this is a change that they had in 90 days, by the way. Basically, as we were able to see that the tap-through rate has been increasing, so the system is basic that it's telling the algorithm, okay, cool, I'm basically saying like, okay, there was a significantly lower portion of the people that were coming in that was converting over and saying like, yeah, okay, this is exactly what I'm looking for hunting, or it might be something that I'm interested to do so. And I want to look at it more. And the parallel can be seen there. The conversion rate wasn't really that affected, by the way, for this keyword in this particular case. The conversion rate is quite very identical, but still, if there are more taps and the conversion rate percentage-wise is identical, that means more installs. That means more users that are coming in. And that also means more of those users are actually going to be making the subscription or the purchase within the app, right? So, and like you can see the change, it almost goes from right below 5% to all the way like exceeding 15% on a certain day. This is more so related to the visuals matching to the particular search there. It was more so around a specific map structure before. Now it was more so based around the visuals of like hunting for that matter, that they increased that particular percentage rate. And it was reflected on the organic ranking side too. So these are the cues that you could basically look at and try to identify also on your side for the Apple Search Ads side when you're checking these things to get that information and to understand if that's going to be working well or not. So I did mention about, okay, let's speed up this. Let's just try to make this work as fast as possible because I cannot, ask my engineers to produce builds every single 2 days to test my things. They're not going to be really happy to do that. So if I'm running Apple Search Ads for that matter, I have the capability to do something unique that I'm not really able to do in most other platforms. I'm not trying to generate an interest to my app all the time through these keywords, right? I'm trying to identify the people who would be interested in my app by their search queries, right? So I'm basically trying to target the keywords that would convert over at a higher percentage because these searches reflect my product exactly or close enough for them to give it a try. That is why I have the option, by just optimizing my keyword pool, to be able to convert, increase and decrease or play around with my tap-through rate or my conversion rate, right? And that in turn, for those keyword lists specifically, will be allowing me to increase my organic rankings at the same time. So if I'm able to increase my tap-through rate for the keywords that I'm targeting, and I'm going to go a little bit into the details, especially with custom product pages, you're going to be able to do this. It just requires a little bit of effort from your creative team. But if you're able to increase these two statistics specifically, this simply means that keyword is going to be bringing in you more downloads. That means you'll be telling the algorithm, okay, hi, this is who I am. For these keywords, a lot of the percentage of people who are seeing it are converting over. They're interested in what I'm doing. And since the algorithm wants to favor you in that particular sense, because you're bringing in the most revenue for Apple, through that particular keyword, they're going to push your rankings upwards. And this becomes very clear. It's always, you heard this everywhere before, match the effort that you're doing with the messaging that you want to do. Like, it's a very common thing. The creatives that you use, the journey that the user comes through in the entire funnel, all of this should be matching what they're needing, right? The neat thing is, with Apple searches, you just put in the search query itself, and then it's going to be reflected immediately. You're going to see the data on the keyword level, and it's going to be, meaningful for you. So basically, if you are able to do this very correctly, number one, your Apple search ads effort is going to be significantly more cost effective. You're not going to be paying $150 for an install for like 5 installs because people were tapping and they were not downloading or something. Because now you know from the data at hand that you can make this work and you can combine these two things to make that site effective. But even more better, you should be able to see that this improvement is going to be resulting in the increase in the ASO side of things too, right? It should be increasing the performance of the ASO side of things too. So it provides that kind of double benefit. What I'm able to see on that particular side is that if I'm able to increase these two sides constantly, I'm able to create these positive feedback loops. So that basically means the more that my Apple search ad is working, the better performance I start to get from my ASO, the better I get my ASO, the better performance I start to get from my ASA. And I'm going to be going into the examples in a few too. Just as another example, for the keyword ranking Just Eat for a partner of mine that we're working for, we started to apply custom product pages targeting, this particular keyword and trying to make it more relevant for the user. It's a very branded term, it's a very competitor term, because I would assume from what you heard so far, you say, but what am I going to do from, okay, it's good for the generic terms, right, to capture this, but how am I going to make it work for my competitor? And here was the kind of trick that I used. I tried to create a custom product page that looked like the custom, the product page of that particular competitor app. So it worked. And my organic ranking started to increase as well, which is great. So the algorithm now thinks I'm significantly more relevant. But that's the thing. In terms of the users that were coming in, since they were checking like the retention statistics and stuff, like we're not trying to trick the user. We're just trying to get the attention of the user. We're still delivering that same need that that user had. It's just that I used something that they were familiar with, and I used that for my own benefit. And once I did that, it improved my own statistics. And here's the change on the conversion rate for the keyword for that site as well. That basically improved my organic ranking in that particular, bigger sense too. Okay, so going over overall performance and structure. So we talked about how this tap-through rate and this conversion rate is directly affecting the performance of the ASO side and definitely the ASA side. Reason being why is that, let's say you're getting 10,000 impressions from a certain keyword. If you're able to increase your tap-through rate and your conversion rate for that keyword alone, you're getting a higher percentage of the traffic there, even if you're not bidding higher, right? And the way to make this without necessarily changing your bids would be to match your messaging, right, with the thing that you're targeting, that being the keyword for that particular case. If you're able to do that, then, well, yeah, basically you're using the resources at your hand significantly more effectively and efficiently. So you can, definitely go ahead and, take the photos for this site as well. But since you're immediately affecting the algorithm when you're doing these, especially on the Apple search side, you added the keyword, you added the right, it started to spend money. it usually would be reflected in that particular sense where you're able to see an increase in that particular organic performance too, because the users now, more amount of the users that actually make that search are coming towards your app because you directed another, like, although a narrower compared to the organic side pathway, that some amount of that traffic is going to be flowing to your side. Again, you get that kind of privilege and that kind of position that you can leverage to basically increase your performance as possible. So here's another example that I want to talk about. This is for a crypto finance app before it all crashed very miserably, and most of us lost a lot of money there. Not me. But, yeah, I'm not a good liar. So basically, what I was able to do here. I mean, we're looking at pretty large campaign here. I mean, this is between almost like a month period, and we're talking about almost like $1 million being spent in the Apple Search Ads channel, which would be great if it would working, and it was working for these guys. So basically, what we were able to do, this is the February 24th spike that you see there is when I start to apply custom product pages for all of the ad groups, and I rearrange my entire understanding of Apple Search Ads. So basically, this is what I do there. Here's what I basically wanted to achieve. I wanted to create custom product pages because I can do up to 35 different variants, right? That is the number one capacity that I have. So I need to work with 35 different pathways that I can direct customers to. So I need to combine and consolidate them into 35. I didn't utilize all of the 35, but I used most of them. Then on the Apple Search Ads side, I looked at the keywords that I'm spending money on. And since this is for a crypto finance app, of course, there's a lot of different cryptocurrencies. And I could make, dedicated custom product pages that is capturing stuff from like Bitcoin and Ethereum or, Dogecoin for that matter, which could be a little bit, prettier in terms of that side. But, I started to apply that. An immediate effect that it happened is that my tap-through rate and my conversion rate skyrocketed. Why? Because a user who's making that search, if I'm showing a lot of Bitcoins around and a lot of you can do the best kind of rate and you can do, convert it here, etc. But if they search for Ethereum, they might say, well, I'm looking for something that is more Ethereum oriented. And here's the thing, the decision that the user makes is done only in a few seconds. They do the search, imagine even from yourself. They go in, they make the search, they go into the product page, they scroll maybe through all of the screenshots, maybe, not all of them. They maybe watch the very short preview video or maybe the first few seconds of it, and they make that, particular decision. But if you bombard them with certain pieces of information in their semi-peripheral view as well, that is signifying to their brain that, hi, yes, that search that you made, yes, I am that guy. Yeah, you came to the right place. Here, please, go ahead and download. And that was the immediate effect that I was able to see. Tap-through rate and conversion rate compared to what it was skyrocketed. And here's a neat thing that I was able to see when this happened. Look, this is not about having additional keywords in your Apple Search Ads campaign. This is just creating that user journey and that user path, signifying to the algorithm, I'm relevant for these keywords, which I'm telling the system if I'm doing that, find me more stuff like this. Here's what happened in one day. This is the organic ranking number of keywords that they had. It almost doubled overnight after I started to get those results. Once I started to put all of those custom product pages live. Why? Because here's what the algorithm is telling me. Basically what I'm telling. I said, here are the keywords that I'm bidding on, which I already was doing so. I implemented these custom product pages, a lot of variants, of course. And now I have the unique position at my hand that I'm able to capture a significantly higher portion of the traffic from those particular keywords, telling to the system, telling to the algorithm, I'm relevant for these keywords, find me more. Because the algorithm at that particular side would try to say, okay, cool. If I'm at that position, if I'm at that particular case that I'm capturing a larger portion of that traffic, the algorithm will say okay, let me try to find a few more like this that are I know that the people who are making these searches are making these other searches as well. So let me give a ranking for this guy for those keywords too. So you see where that line breaks, right? Where that thin line breaks and it starts to work for you is when you always try to make it work. Keeping this in the idea, if I'm able to make the user journey not only within my app, but for the journey for them to come to my app, in an optimized fashion, it improves my overall performance for everything that I'm doing, that being the Apple Search Ads side and that being the organic side, which decreases my overall cost. Because imagine this, you're ranking for almost a double amount of keywords that you have. These are, of course, for like varying different, ranking sizes. But, the more darker it gets, the higher it is. The super dark blue that almost doubled overnight, that's rank number ones, basically. The one underneath that is like rank 2 to 3, I think, and the one below that is 4 to 10, if I'm not mistaken. And again, like this is basically in 2 days, like overnight for that matter, for that particular case. And this is kind of like the improvements that you should be able to see in the perfect scenario too. Okay? All right. Yeah. Yes, it is an organic. But the reason why that happened is because of the Apple Search. Like tap-through rate conversion rate just spikes up, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, that happened. That was neat to see. Yeah.
This is exactly when Russia invaded Ukraine. The search for crypto increased globally.
True, but here's the thing: I applied a specific structure and a specific tactic there to capture a higher portion of that traffic. So if I was able to increase, as you've seen in that particular, say the tap rate and the conversion rate, even though the search volume was increasing, that basically, two things aligned at once. I was saying more people were searching for it, and I was capturing a bigger portion of that, right? And then I was able to see that part to increase. This is a number of ranked keywords. This is not necessarily related to the search volume of those keywords, right? So if I'm getting that, it basically means even that search volume is increasing for those keywords, even a higher percentage of that user base that growed over, night, has been coming to my app at a higher rate. And since it's coming at a higher rate, now the algorithm is saying like, okay, these are also related keywords that I think would work for you, and try to provide you with additional benefit there. Okay, so that one was not accurate, that particular slide. But yeah, basically, if we go into the fact that, as I did explain, if you create these ad groups, which the custom product pages are able to be applied in ad groups, with these particular messaging in mind, I want to do something that is going to be reflecting a certain message. So let's say, for that matter, if I'm looking for a app to give weight, which I do need to do because Berlin has not been treating me very nice. I'm eating too much. It's very nice. But so I need to lose weight. The visuals that I want to see and the keywords that I'd be looking for would be stuff like losing weight, weight loss program, exercises to lose weight, exercises to lose my belly, and stuff like that would be my searches. And if I combine that particular group of keywords with that intent into an ad group, and then create the visuals that are based around, the classic, you have the tape measure around the belly saying, and the six packs are seen there, and then everything basic. The ideal image that you want to one day achieve, which I do know forever and ever I'm not going to be able to achieve, and I'm going to be a happy bellyless, belly full man. But basically, you're putting those kind of visuals, which is signifying to the user in those first few seconds that they're making that search, hi, I'm exactly what you're looking for. And if I'm able to expand this pool as much as possible with that kind of messaging in mind, I start to utilize my Apple Search Ads campaigns in a different side, in a different mentality. That being, I am trying to optimize towards the particular path that the user comes to that point and sees my product page. Not necessarily trying to say with the more generic numbers, okay, my CPIs in general are X, I'm trying to decrease it to Y, or I'm just trying to do these particular things. So basically, it's something that I'm trying to do to optimize that particular site that turns out to be working quite very well. So going over to the section where I've been able to see that this positive feedback loop is able to work out is, how did I make this? Okay, this is great. So far I can see that if I optimize my process in Apple Search Ads, it's affecting my ASO positively. That's great, but okay, positive feedback loop means the loop needs to be completed. Like the ASO side should be improving my Apple Search Ads side too, right? And from the example that I gave from the crypto finance app, right? That was a particular case where the number of ranked keywords that I had has been increasing, the number of them. So what we have here is, again, for finance apps, for money management keywords. You can see that one is in the UK. I'm going to show you the other page as well. But there's a 156 GBP bid here. Total spend is a 400 pound amount. The organic ranking is 24, and there has been one position increase since yesterday for this particular case. So if I were to see that I have an app out there that is in the US that is targeting the same keyword in the same storefront, but they're paying in dollars only because that's how their settings were, but they do not have an organic ranking for it. Despite having higher bids, they're not able to spend, because that's the kind of thing on Apple Search Ads side is you don't say like, okay, I want to spend this much and this is what I'm willing to pay. And then Apple says like, of course, sir, I'm going to be able to provide you all of the impressions and all of the searches for this. They don't do that. They say like, they're really like a hard seller for that. Say, I don't know. I need to see if we're going to be a good fit. I mean, I don't know if people like what they see. I mean, they're like really, really, one of those like hard sellers of trying to do like an opposite sale to you and making my life harder for that matter. But, basically, if I'm not able to get that organic ranking, I'm not able to scale up on that particular keyword. And if I cannot scale up on that keyword, maybe actually it is going to be working really well, or I do know it's working well for me, right? Because it's very, very relevant to my app, but just the algorithm does not know, and it's making me nuts that it doesn't know. But even if I'm trying to bid higher, outbidding my competition, the algorithm still says like, yeah, I know, I understand you want to pay more, but I think this guy provides a better user experience. So how do I make that trigger happen? Is that I try to work the algorithm, make the algorithm work in my favor by increasing my relevancy to the keywords that are going to be related to money management related keywords in this particular case. Then in turn, it's going to be affecting my Apple Search Ads site. I'm able to spend, I'm able to see the data, I'm able to see the volume for these particular keywords and try to increase it. So if I'm able to do this and I constantly do this path and constantly do this loop, we basically come to a point where it becomes like a snowball effect. It starts to roll, it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The more amount of keywords that I'm ranking for, the more amount of keywords I'm able to spend in Apple Search, the more about I'm able to spend and convert over at a better rate from the Apple Search Ads site, the more amount of keywords additionally I will start to rank. And if I can create that particular loop, then it basically improves my performance overall. So going to the final stage, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about custom product pages because it's very much based around increasing your tap-through rates and your conversion rates, right? For those who, did any of you, basically, let me ask that, as like a raise of hands, did you utilize custom product pages before?
Yes, that's quite new, right?
Well, it's been out there for like a little bit, like over a year at this point. Yeah. It is quite new. Huh? Was it February? Yeah, maybe it could be live. It's almost like a year. I can't remember exactly since I'm more focused on the Today tab side right now, since that is a super new for me. But yeah, it's been about like a year, but I can see like half of you, tested it out and probably had varying different results to it as well. So what I did explain here, throughout the session itself is matching the messaging to the keyword pools of these searches that are happening and matching the visuals that these people see to match the particular keywords that they're searching for. If they're looking for weight loss, have them visuals and stuff that show and signify weight loss, not like a ripped out man with like a lot of muscles for, muscle building, purposes. Maybe that's not the right one. And since you have 35 different variants, you can create these customized messaging, right? Which is quite very nice to have for that matter. So for custom product pages, if you're able to do and if you're making this particular messaging right, even if you're not increasing your daily budgets, even if you're not increasing your bids, you're still getting a higher portion, a bigger portion of that traffic through to your particular app, which signifies to the algorithm that you're working significantly better and well. So once I do this and I'm able to increase this, it affects in multiple different layers. Even though I'm not necessarily spending more per user, and actually I'm spending less per user because I'm increasing TTR and CR at the same time, usually what it results in, some of those users go ahead and make purchases. So that increases my overall ROAS as well, right? So, it's basically a gigantic win. And here's an example that I was able to pull for a partner of ours that we did, custom product pages with in the finance category. The main metrics that I want you to look at here, CPA is a side benefit. If you increase the tap-through rate and the conversion rate without changing the bids and the budgets that much, that CPA decrease is expected. So the key thing here is the conversion rate did increase to, like about 20% over the previous version, but the tap-through rate increased a lot, which means the main blocker here before was that when people made that search and they saw the existing default visuals, they thought it was not relevant to them. And once I changed that and they started to go in, they actually said like, oh no, actually this does work for me. And they started to download it at a higher ratio, which then, as a side benefit, it immediately will affect the decrease in the CPA side, right? So that's basically what we were able to achieve and what you should be aiming at and the key metrics that you should be looking at to make this particular side work. And once you do these three things together, optimize the process, the entire process, before the user comes in and control that particular journey, because you bid on the keyword that that person is searching for. You know what kind of point that they're coming from. If they're saying win crypto, well, they're there to win crypto, right? They're not necessarily always looking to transfer. Like, you don't need to think of that, more broader sense. Just try to optimize that particular process to win crypto, for that matter. Or if they want to race a car, they just want to race a car. They don't want to race a plane necessarily. So if you can optimize that process and match the visuals accordingly, then that user in those first few seconds would either understand what you're trying to give them and understand that this is, yes, exactly what I'm searching for, or they're going to determine not. And in this case, I was able to make that change and make that switch compared to the default product page. Basically, the default product page for the particular keywords that I was using in this custom product page was saying, yeah, I'm, not as much relevant as these other guys for this particular case. And I was able to increase that. And like I said, the immediate effect of that was to decrease the CPA. And very finally, we talked about a lot here and about the entire process. So the neatest thing always is to get like a one-on-one session and talk about this a little bit more in detail. So if you want to do it, we have, lovely team members in the crowd right now. Barkam is there, he's raising his hand. If you want to have like a one-on-one session and go over your campaign specifically, talk about what you tested out, what you tried, what worked, what didn't work, what you want to achieve, etc. More than happy to help you out. You can send me an email as well, or you can go ahead and add me on LinkedIn too. And, we can have a discussion. I'm always looking forward to help everyone as much as possible and try to guide you in the best kind of way. So that being said, thank you very much for your time.